Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. We have a full house. Hope you all have learned something amazing already. My name is Zhen. I'm part of the cloud finance team, and I'm joined with my colleague Kuntal from the CCOE team, and we are both from Palo Alto Networks. I know we are the only thing between you and your drinks at 5. If all you want is some more experience, we will give you now. The goal of our session is really to inspire you, and we will dive deep into the 500 level onto 2 very interesting topics: anomaly detection as well as unit economics. Let's go. Okay, a little bit of context. For those who are less familiar with Palo Alto Networks, we are the largest pure-play cybersecurity vendor. We secure your network. We secure your cloud. We also enable your SOC to do transformation. So in case you have any incident, hope you don't, we also have an incident response team to help you. So net-net, we help you make your digital life more secure so that you can focus on your core business value. What it takes. In fact, it takes a lot of cloud infrastructure to provide you the value. If you look at the security workload, many of those are compute intensive or network intensive or analytics intensive or all intensive. And also more and more workload nowadays are shifting from on-premises to the cloud. Compounding with the growth of our company, we really had an exponential cloud growth over the past 5 years. And luckily, we started our journey actually 3 years ago. And in fact, my colleague and I presented last year on some of the foundational topics highlighted here: the data foundation, our cost allocation framework, as well as some of the engineering optimization tools. So before we dive into the topics today, maybe let me try to understand you guys a little bit better. Raise your hand if you are non-technical or finance. Okay. So raise your hand if you are more like technical or semi-technical. Wow, okay. So since we have more people from the technical side, Kuntal, you go first.
Thank you, Zhen. That's very thoughtful and helpful. Hi, team. I'm Kuntal, the Cloud FinOps Manager at Palo Alto Networks. Basically, we are engineering FinOps. And I'm extremely excited and grateful sharing our journey with the FinOps community here. So thank you for coming. It's a full house, right? As we have both the persona with the business side as well as the technical side, let me paint this picture, right? Maybe close your eyes, dream about this. You are cruising through your cloud bills, right? And you are really, really, really feeling good about your cost management skills, right? And bam, nightmare. Suddenly your cost goes from, let's grab a coffee, we need second mortgage. What happened here, right? That's one of the pivotal moments that I would like to share in our journey as well, right? It involves 3 personas. Start with the product team. Some company call it as an engineering team, app team. Persona 2 is our finance team. One of their function is to review the monthly bills and, of course, pays for it. And persona 3 is the engineering FinOps teams. We are on a mission to prevent the cloud bills from skyrocketing. With these 3 personas around, in May last year, one of our AWS accounts sees a huge cost spike. It was like $1,000 to $2,000 a month to $45,000 to $50,000 a month. Let me repeat, $1,000 to $2,000 a month to $45,000 to $50,000 a month. What happened? In a month of June, when finance team bring it to our attention, we have a cost visibility. So we quickly identified what caused this problem. In this case, it was a cloud trail. Not EC2, not block storage, but just a cloud trail. What happened there? So product team started looking from the engineering point of view, hey, what triggered the high volume of data and the management event causing this spike in a cloud trail? My team started looking from the business lens point of view. Hey, first cloud trail is free. Everything is there. Why we need to create more than one cloud trail? What's the reason for it? After multiple investigation, we bring the cost back to the earth And one thing was very common in the retrospect. And in that case, it was wish we could have detected it earlier. And that's the today's topic is shifting left, showing the preventive capabilities in the cloud. We believe this capability is more than the FinOps tools. While our product teams are innovating next generation cybersecurity platform, this capability covers their back, making sure nothing goes awry. And so we think this is a trusted partner in our growth because of the three key reasons. It scales well with our expanding operations without missing a bit. Second, it adapts well with our growing and evolving cost in our established accounts, projects, and subscriptions. And third, due to its preventive nature, the earlier we detect, less escalations that we have to get into, right? So we really, really, really believe in it, that it's fostering our growth in it, right? So how are we building this, right? It's very simple. We call it as ABC of anomaly, where block A is our detection mechanism. What it does is it detects the anomaly, store it in a persistent storage, so we can build the dashboard out of it. Whatever the data that we gather, we pass it over to block B, which is our notification hub. This is something we built in-house. It's a framework that provides us Slack and email capabilities. Once it gets this notification, it passes it to the users. Now, who are the users here? They are our internal employees. They assume the cost owner roles for their cloud resources. Once they get the notification, they may want to give us a feedback back, right? Like, oh, okay, I get this email notification, what's happening? I get a Slack notification, what's happening? We capture this information through our notification hub that avoids the manual operation, and we put it back to the anomaly detection engine so we can build the dashboarding around it. There are other FinOps persona as well. They wanted to pull this information out of band through our dashboards, and it's kind of available. Now, I've been notified this is like level 300, so I have to share some architecture. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on block A, open the hood, and see how we implemented it for AWS, followed by GCP. For AWS, they already have a native service called cost anomaly detection. So we tried to do the POC, identified it. This service serves our use case. So we are not reinventing the wheel. We are using our native service managed by AWS. The important thing here is our data lake. We are tapping into 3 unique data sources from our data lake. So first thing is an inventory. It tells us how many AWS accounts exist in each organization. Yes, in each organization. From here, we install the cost monitor with the dimension type as a service and alert type as an SNS. Now, SNS is being sent to the Lambda, and the message goes to the PubSub to the GCP ecosystem. This is where the fun happens. This is where the magic happens. Once the anomaly is being detected by AWS managed service, we bring it to the GCP, and here we marry it with the labeling. That labeling information tells us exactly this account ID belongs to which product and which environment. And once we get this information, we store it into the BigQuery. BigQuery is the place from where we build our data studio, where we build our dashboards. Another important thing that we would like to notify is the onboarding module. This is very important. It gives us 3 unique information. First, who to reach out, whether it's a user, whether it's an Active Directory group, or whether it's a Slack channel ID. How to reach out, through the Slack or through the email. And the third thing is when to reach out. We don't want to reach out to every single anomaly to the product team. So we have set up a custom threshold for each product team for their environment. So it meets their need. One size doesn't fit for all based on their usage and based on the historical pattern, right? So with this 3 information, we decide, does the user needs to be alerted or not? And if it needs to be alerted, we kind of send it through our internal mechanism. For Slack, we call it as a Legolas, and it goes to the user, we notify them. And for email, we call it as an executor. Based on their choice, one of these framework will get activated, send the email notification. There is a possibility that maybe user wants to give us a feedback, and we capture this feedback, put it into BigQuery, and we use this for our dashboarding. So this is what end-to-end the architecture looks like for us in AWS. So far, it's working out so good for us, and we are improving on top of this one. Let's look into the GCP side. GCP, we use a little bit different approach. I know recently they announced a managed service. It's a private preview, but we were more looking for the custom solutions. And we worked and collaborated with Google team somewhere around beginning of this year and come up with this architecture and implementation. So it's a custom build. It's an enterprise ready, and it kind of serves our need. What we are doing is we are using a Looker core with the machine learning capabilities. So we are tapping into our billing data, right? And we are using a machine learning, and it predicts, it gives us the two unique information. One, what's the minimum expected spend, and what's the maximum expected spend. And those two informations per project, we store it into the persistent databases, right? From here, block 4 and block 5. So that tells us, okay, now I have an expected spend per project, and I have a actual, every 2 hours, we look into the actual spend and see, does it goes beyond the maximum expected spend or not? If it goes, then we call it as a qualified anomaly detection and kind of store it in our databases as well. Now, do I need to alert to the user or not, right? That's the part, the brain is same. We use our GCP onboarding mechanism that tells us the same 3 key information, whom to reach out, how to reach out, and when to reach out. And once we get that, we use these common mechanisms, reach out to the user via email and Slack, get their feedback, and put it into the BigQuery, and the dashboard is generated. So the yellow piece is our block A, and our gray piece is like a notification hub, which kind of remains consistent. Now, let's look into block C. What's the end user will receive this message? So if you are the engineer and if you are the cost owner for the resources, you'll get something like this. It has the key information of what is your account ID, what's your product, what's your environment. It has a hyperlink towards the cost explorer. This is an example of Slack with AWS. And what's the cost impact? In the bottom, there are a few buttons. We wanted to make sure we get the user feedback through the Slack, and based on that, improve upon it or understand the behavior, how they are navigating it, right? So we built something beyond this. So we understood that every time we send a user a Slack, it doesn't work out that way. So we built the tiering notification system. What this system does is, whenever the cost impact goes above the certain watermark, my team gets notified. And we reach out to the product team, making sure that they get the proper attentions and they get the proper response for this anomaly. So it's more like if something is really so high, everybody should jump on it and see, is it right? Is it right for my business? Is something wrong or not, right? Other than the Slack, which is our active communication, that this is something what the dashboard would look like for us. There are key filters that I would like to highlight it here. One is, what's the dollar value that we wanted to filter it out? For some product team, it's a 1,500. Some product team, maybe it's a 500 based on their environment, right? Second thing, what's the percentage? Not every dollar value increase. So it's a percentage and dollar together, hand in hand, give us a good picture that we wanted to look here. And of course, it's the environment and the product. Based on this filter, user can see what's the total anomaly looks like out of the possible anomaly count. And from here, it's a cost impact that we can calculate per anomaly, and it's a total impact in a given selected time. So we think real alerts and response are useful. This dashboard gives us a crucial information. It tells us what's our historical analysis, and it also supports our strategic planning backed by the data, right? So we talked about ABC of anomaly, how we implemented in our architecture, what the Slack message looks like, but how this anomaly really flows in a Palo Alto. So it goes through 3 main cycles: detection, analysis, and mitigation. So when the possibly anomaly is generated, we store it in a persistent database. And this is from where we build our dashboard. Here, we check for the custom threshold. Does it meet the product dollar and percentage threshold to be notified? If the answer is yes, of course, they'll get a Slack and email. And through our tiering mechanism, we'll check, is it too high? Do we need to intervene? Do we need to make sure this gets higher and the right priority? So FinOps team gets notified as well. From FinOps team, central FinOps team, we also reach out to the product team just in case if they need more support or not. Here, product team would do the root cause analysis and see, is it aligned with my business and expected? And if it is yes, we capture that feedback. But if it is no, we have to work on the mitigation plan and see what's happening and mitigate the situation. And based on that, we calculate the cost impact and what's the cost avoidance dollar. If this anomaly is really true and the cost is not expected, can we prevent it in future? How can we put a governance policy around it and kind of making sure the same thing doesn't happen across the accounts or across the subscriptions or across the multi-cloud environment? And if there is a possibility, we work with our peer team, CloudOps, and add it to their backlog and take it further from that. It seems like a very busy slide, but this is not something we come up day one. It evolved as we iterate through our different FinOps phases. It evolved. We pivoted it. It works for us in this phase, in this time right now. Maybe when we reevaluate it next quarter, it might look little bit different based on what's working in the future, right? But depending on the journey, if you are at very beginning of the phase, I would highly recommend FinOps Foundation Manage Cost on an Anomaly blog post as well, right? So fast forward May last year to March this year. Similar incident happened, but the outcome was a bit different here. What happened? In March, one of the product team rolled out the feature. Feature surged a huge cost spike. Anomaly detection solution detected it, sent the notification to the user or the product team. My team also got notified. We got also involved in it. Eventually, we collaborated. We root cause the analysis and mitigate the situation. The mitigation at that time was to roll out the feature and reduce the cost. And the later phase of the time, with the right feature enhancements, we rolled back the feature in, and since then, we haven't seen the cost, right? With this approach, we avoided 1.3 million, right? And this is not a typo, right? So, thank you. Thank you. Now, think of this. What's the number one priority for a FinOps Foundation survey in 2023, 2024? Any guesses? Reduce the waste, thank you, right? If I have to reduce a waste worth of 1.3 million with your enterprise discount, with your rate optimizations on your VM, any guess how many VM we need to shut it down? Maybe we need to ask Gemini and see, right? On an average, if I ask the question correctly, if I prompt it correctly, it's around 4,000 to 5,000 VMs. You identify the VM, then you operationalize to shut down, and then you can work saying 1.3 with all your discounts. But with these solutions, with this preventive care, one incident can help you, help your organization to achieve something bigger, right? So that's the impact we are looking at it. Of course, we are tracking the different KPIs. We wanted to track it at the business level KPIs as well as the tool level KPIs. As this is a very continuous process, right? Some of the KPIs, we started to tracking it now, but in future, we wanted to add more KPIs and see, is this tool still effective in the current point in time for the different product team within our business? If it is not, think back, pivot, and kind of improve upon. So what's the lesson learned, right? For us, less is more. We don't want to bombard so many anomalies to the product team. And like, hey, we detected this, we detected that. Less is more. Try to avoid the noise. And maybe, if possible, try to eliminate white noise as well. When I mean by white noise is that is a trade-off. When your product teams are working something on high priority and something is like 10%, 15% spike, maybe you wanted to hold it off for the right number. So it's a continuous process, churn around it, what works for your product team, for your business, and set that number. But less is always more in this case. Number two is like, it's a shared responsibility. When FinOps team detects the anomaly, and product team does the root cause analysis, you wanted to help your product team to go deep and reduce their root cause analysis time. I'll give you an example. One of our, I think it was a GCP project, we see the cost spike in a cloud run. But in that particular project, there were 5,000 cloud runs. Now, you detected anomaly in a cloud run with the SKU and service category. But I can help my team to exactly point what was the cloud run ID and the resource ID. The root cause analysis time would be much, 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 much lesser. So dig deep, help them as much as you can. And third thing is right time and right people. Change is the only constant. People are moving from one product team to another product team. Even product itself are moving to a different leaders. So you have to make sure your data lake is always consistent and always accurate with the right people in mind, so this anomaly doesn't become a zombie anomaly. Right? With this, I would like to invite Zhen to share his expert invited for the unit economics. Right?
All right. This seems like a sharp transition beyond we are trying to capture as wide audience as possible. But guess what? There are a lot of commonalities between anomaly detection and unit economics. I think the most important one is they both create value for the business. Let me do another question to you guys. How many of you raise your hand if you have run or you are running or you plan to run or you aspire to run or you get involved in a unit economics project? All right. So keep your hands up. If, in your opinion, this unit economics include those metrics, just keep your hands up. Okay. Keep it up if you think your unit economics include those ones in your definition. And how about this? Okay. We have a lot of pros in this room. I think the point I want to deliver here is unit economics is not just unit economics. Ultimately, it's all about business impact. Give you a few examples. What can you do about unit economics? You can forecast your profitability for a product. You can identify focus area of doing customization, where to focus on. You can actually help your price and product and pricing team. If you are running a SaaS company, FinOps actually is embedded in our pricing practice as well. And then you can drive accountability, try to identify the right owner of different components of different units. So again, unit economics is all about business value. If you want to run a program, this is kind of like typical flow. The first thing is to identify the business stakeholders and understand the use cases you really want to address using your unit economic solution. It can be focused on cost, efficiency, or it can be more broader. But the key point here is that you would need to bring in the right stakeholders to set up the right expectation. And second one, in this process, you align the metrics. This will take some time, but the good alignment of metrics will set you up for success. And then you try to connect all the data, different sources from different systems into a single source of truth. Sometimes this conceptually sounds simple, but in practice, this might be non-trivial. It requires some data cleanup, even like allocation or custom logic. So be patient on this step as well. Number 4, you develop a UI UX. You have multiple options. I'm going to show you in a minute. And last but not least, so unit economics is really a continuous process. So the moment you stop updating or maintaining your dashboard, or unit economics is not going to be working very quickly. So with those process, what it looks like in our system is from left to right, you have all the sources. In our case, we have the product usage information. We have the purchase information about revenue. We also have the cloud cost. So note that cloud is only one of three, the data sources in this case. And then we ingest all the different sources into a single data lake. And then we run all the reporting and analytics on top of that single data lake. Another cloud here is the data lake itself is also a service, right? For some of the more advanced engineers or PMs, they actually can request access to the data lake so that they can run their own detailed analysis. So to put this into practice, I will give you two use cases. So the first one is how you use unit economics to drive pricing or drive a deal review, right? So for example, you have a hypothetical product that's running on 3 regions and with different customer tier. So if you calculate the total cost, you get $15 per customer. It tells you something, but it does not tell you too much. And instead, if you break down all the information and try to put all the detailed information there, you very quickly identify, oh, there's some region that I'm very profitable. Maybe that's because like US or some central region where I have a large volume. And there are some regions I'm not profitable. And then from the customer tier perspective, my large customers are profitable, but my small ones are not. Right? Depends on the product. You may have very different heat map. But with the drill down capabilities, you would be able to actually identify where I want to focus on. And then this information will help your deal team to price the product properly and to maximize your profits. So the second example is kind of like account health or revenue expansion, meaning that imagine you have a particular customer. In our case, right, we sell them a SaaS license for 100 license, and over time they would deploy the license. Right, first quarter 50, and then 75, then 100. What happens is for many SaaS products, they may have some over deployment at the end of the usage, right? So in this case, the utilization at Q4 is 120%. As a result, because we still have the same revenue across the year, as a result, our margin is the lowest in Q4. If you don't know this information, you just have a customer keep renew for another year, your margin will be 76%. But with visibility, with the information, with the right communication, you would be able to have a conversation with your customers and resize the license count. In this case, if you resize the license, matched 120 to 120, you bring down utilization to 100%, customers still pay use what they pay, and then as a vendor, you kind of maintain your margin at 18% healthy percentage. So with that, let me invite Kuntal back to the stage. We're going to have a quick recap. I think the first one is all you need is real organizational commitment. Note that I highlighted real. Think about that. How many times you talk to some senior executives where they promise you that they are going to do something, but they never deliver. So I think finding out, trying to figure out what is real commitment versus not, making sure that having a more real commitment actually is really helpful. And the second one is, I think this is my favorite, is hiring talent is a growth mind share. I think many of you guys are growing your team and you are hiring. Think about the talent you want to hire, right? If you are running an engineering team, think about what are other skills might be helpful for your organization. Not today, but 3 years later. Maybe you want to bring in someone with engineering background, but also interested in finance. Or if you're running a finance organization, trying to find someone with a STEM background or with more engineering mindshare. And remember, if you have a 100% growth of cloud spend, easily in 3 years, you are going to 10x your cloud spend. So your talents, the skill set required to run your infrastructure today might not be sufficient to operate 3 years later. So look for those talents with growth mindset. I think it's very critical. And the third thing is your system, right? Design for the future as well. Do not just solve the problem from yesterday, but solve the problem for 2 years later. Imagine if your cloud spend or your scope expanding 3x from today to 3 years, what kind of system you will need to build to support that kind of a volume. So think more for long term. I'll pass to Kuntal.
This one is my favorite. While we know the dashboard helps to show you the historical trends, we need to figure it out a way how we can reach out more proactively towards the engineers so they can drive the action. So we strongly believe push and pull together hand in hand works well for us. And the last one, FinOps is like security. It's a trust business, right? Automations is essential. It's required, but it's not sufficient enough. We need human interaction, strategic planning, and maybe proactive management to drive towards a sustainable growth. So what's next? Maybe I would like to know from you, collaborate with all of you FinOps practitioners to see what's the next. I'm very excited about the new challenges and opportunities that I see in engineering FinOps, shifting left, plus, 2.0. With that, we'll open for Q&A.
All right, let's have a big round of applause.
Thank you.
I just want to say thanks, Kuntal and Zhen, for sharing such detail, but also sharing with the fact that it's progress, not perfection. It's where you are at now in your journey, and it makes sense for you now. So I appreciate you sharing that as well, that insight. And with that, I'll open it up to questions. We're going to pass around this foam microphone. Please use the microphone so we can capture it in the recording for folks who weren't able to attend. I'll start down here. I've only hurt 3 people with this, so.
Thank you so much. That was a great presentation. Can you talk about how, or if you ran into false positive use scenarios with anomaly detection, and how did you handle them?
Yes, so anomaly detections, when we say false positive, it's very subjective, right? Are we comparing against the purely based on the cost trend, or are we trying to combine the product understanding and then detect what's a really true anomaly, right? So we thought through different phases. Currently, what we are looking at is, hey, can I do the synergy across the services and detect is this the right anomaly or not? One particular service can give you the hint, but that's not the anomaly. So to avoid the false positive, we are thinking to go towards a multi-cross queue or multi-service and see is it the right anomaly or not. But that's something that we are looking forward to do it in future.
All right, another question. I think the one right behind you, if you.
Hi, my question is about the. I'm here.
Yeah, sorry.
So on the slide where you talked about how you build the anomaly detection for Google Cloud, step number 2 talked about ARIMA.
Yes.
So could you tell us a little bit more about how you went about creating the decision logic? And did it require special skill set, hiring someone with data science skills? How did that work?
To be fair, in my team, we don't have any data scientists, right? So we are using a Looker with Looker ML. We learned how to use Looker. We got help from Google. But what we are doing is we have a GCP billing. We train on the historical past data and then predict the very 2 things. You may not come out good first time, but through 2 or 3 iterations, you have a fair idea where you are standing. But training point of view, I think it's pretty, we fail it, we could do it, anybody can do it.
Thank you. I think the question behind you there, or next to you, and then I'll come next.
Really quick question on the anomaly detection. At what level are you detecting at? Obviously, it's below total cost. Is it at the AWS service? Are you down to region, instance types? Where are you detecting?
Yeah. So thank you, it's a great question. What we are doing right now is very vertical at the project level, any service, any SKU. We have a vision to go across the project and detect it at the app level. if I have a label, why can I detect it across the account and then see is it the true anomaly for this app or not? But right now, it's purely on the project, which is a one vertical or subscriptions or account.
Is there a question? Just give me a second. Is there a question on this side of the room? Somebody have a question? Yeah? No, we'll come back to you.
Thank you for the excellent presentation, and congrats on the results. I'm curious to, I actually thought when I saw this presentation that you guys were blending and using unit cost, unit economics to drive anomaly detection. Do you have any plans to do that? And you just alluded a little bit with the application stack going forward, but have you considered doing that?
So that's a great question. If I have to expand what she asked, is like a operational level. If I have a unit economics data, what is stopping us to use a business logic, anomaly detections, and this and combine together, hey, this is an anomaly or not. And that would reach you to the 99% accuracy towards a true anomaly from the anomaly level. But it's a great suggestion. And maybe it's a 3.0.
Do you want to go with your question?
Yeah, it would be a quick one. Thank you for a great presentation. By the way, I'm right here.
Okay.
So in my company, we have something very similar, anomaly detection, notifications on Slack, everything. But I'm going to ask you two questions related to challenges we have faced. So how do you identify an anomaly? Is it, for example, weekly averages, weekly variances, week over week, percentage of cost? How do you say this is an anomaly? This is the first question. Second question, your slide said that it's near real time. I assume you're still limited by the cloud, by the availability of the data from the cloud providers, which is basically 2 to 3 days late. Is that the case, or did you find a way to actually detect it near real time? Thank you.
Thank you. I would answer like first question and then maybe clarify the second question. How do we, so it's a cost increase. Now from cost increase, how do you label it as an anomaly, right? So what we currently is doing is, if we see the cost increase on any given project per service category or service category group, if it goes beyond a certain threshold, we call it as a possible anomaly. From there, we leave it to the product team, trying to learn from there, trying to collaborate it, and trying to identify the right anomaly. So we think it as a daily spent increase beyond a certain threshold, and that cost increase, label it as an anomaly.
Okay, so you look at it on daily level, like it's a spend based compared to previous trends of daily spends,
Yes.
basically.
Yeah.
Okay. The second question is related to the near real time. I assume you're still limited by the availability of data from cloud providers.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any questions on this side of the room? Hands? Yeah, perfect.
Hey, thanks for the presentation and great outcomes. So we do something similar, and we stopped reporting anomaly detection as a cost avoidance number because we had a hard time defending that number. I'm curious to know what your calculation is for cost avoidance. And the second question is, where you're managing the business logic for different products to manage their own. I think you mentioned you could set your own thresholds by product. So curious where you're managing that, because that could be fairly complex with a large number of products and obviously needs to be updated continuously based on feedback you're getting. So wondering where that gets managed.
Yeah, thank you. How we are measuring the outcome, was it the first question, I guess, right?
The first question was, how do you calculate cost avoidance on
Yes,
anomalies?
exactly. So the way we set the context is generally cost anomaly cannot stay forever. Ultimately, when somebody pays it, you will detect it, something bad happened, right? So for us, it's like when finance pays the bill, when the finance reviews it in the next month. So if you have an anomaly at the beginning of the month, it can be stay silent until the next month when somebody reviews it. So the worst time could be the 30 days, right? If it has detected on 20th of any given day, maybe it's lasts for the 15 days. So what we do is, whatever the cost impact that we have seen on a given days, how many days we avoided that impact, that's the cost avoidance value.
So sorry,
Right.
I just want to make sure I understand. So how many days how many days left in the billing period, or how many days until you? I'm trying to follow that. I don't.
How many days we avoided that cost? So maximum window, we consider it as a 30 to 35 days. And if we have detected and mitigated in the first 10 days, we saved the 20 days of cost impact, and that's the avoidance value.
So you assume nobody would have found it until the next billing?
Yeah. So ultimately, somebody will find it within the 30 days period. It's not going to last forever for us.
Okay.
And the second question, how complicated is it to have a custom logic?
Yeah, just where are you managing
Yeah,
that?
it's very simple. I think if we talk to the business and product team, everybody wants to help. Everybody wants to save it. So what we do is, based on their historical pattern, we recommend them, this is the right value that you should set with. Most 90%, they'll say, okay, let's set this and see how much noise we are getting it and fine tuning it. So we don't have like a KPI that every month that we have to review, is this threshold right or wrong? We start with something, and if we get more feedback through our Slack notification, which is internal, we fine tune it. So it's a fine tuning and setting it up. We give our recommendations, and they take it forward.
But where do you actually manage the logic? So I understand you're collecting feedback, but is there a separate system that's got granular business logic to manage multiple products?
Yes, so it's in our data lake. We call it as a CSP onboarding module, and we kind of churn it from there and making sure those are current.
So you're updating that manually, or it's somehow a signal you're getting in from Slack?
No, we take the Slack, then another module is there who will read it and then update it.
So
But-
managing
but
it,
there
so
is
someone's keying it in.
Yes, but there is a review process to click approve and deny, just to give you the snippet.
Cool, thank you.
Any other questions? Yep. Do you want to pass the orange cube? Perfect. Nope, I just need you to speak in the mic so the recording gets it.
Oh, sure.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Amazing presentation, really. Question about the unit economics. How do you get that cost per customer? I mean, you need like very granular data to get that. Like, how did you guys do that?
Yeah, if you think about data source, right? Typically, your product team or there will be some systems capture the product telemetry or in the revenue side of information, like Salesforce, whatever data source, you would be able to capture the customer information. The only thing you need to do is to stitch the three set of information together, and then you can go from there.
I think we have time for one or two more questions. Anybody else? Yep. And do we have one over here too? Okay.
One quick question. So is the anomaly detected on the price or the percentage?
Sorry.
So is the anomaly detected on the price or the percentage of the increase?
It's a both. It cannot be one or two. Maybe you can set $1 increase with 100%. If your cost is 50 cents, it doesn't work out. So it has to be end operation. It cannot be all.
Hi. Great presentation. Thank you very much. I have one question with a couple of parts. One is, you said you had multiple data sources. Is that right? That you're ingesting?
Yes.
And then, okay. So first question is, are you doing that to track total cost of ownership of products or internal apps or different things that you're tracking internal to Palo Alto? Second question is, if you are doing that, what benefit did you find since you are using multiple clouds? And then third question is, since you are using multiple clouds, tracking these in different ways and cost of unit economics there, are you able to then take that to your advantage and say, AWS is pricing compute at this, and Google's pricing at this, and Azure's pricing at this, and we can swing workloads? Like, is that a direction you're going to as well, or is that something that you've considered, or is it even worth it?
Yeah, let me try. So I think back to the first question, right? You need to define the scope. Right? What kind of a scope you want to capture within your unit economics measure, right? If you know like all the financial metrics, there are gross margin, operating margin, all the different type of metrics. So in this case, a narrower scope would be your public cloud spend divided by some certain of booking or revenue, right? Some top line information. And then you can also expand, if you want, your numerator, saying like I want to include other components, because some other folks talk about SaaS, like other components of my cloud spend. Or you can even add additional like headcount spend. You can do whatever you want. I mean, as long as you are clear on what you want to measure against yourself. I think you asked about the kind of like a pricing or AWS?
Yeah, well, okay. Did you find any benefit if you were doing that? I don't know if you can talk about that, but are you pricing, are you tracking to like, what's the benefit you're getting out of doing this other than just cost anomaly? I guess is where I'm going. Are you tracking all this data the way that you're tracking it?
Yeah. Well, I think my goal for this session is that you try yourself, like in your company, run some unit economics, and then you'll say like, I think the key word here is really to drive business impact. Right? You can drive business impact by lowering the cost.
Yeah.
Or you can drive the business impact by influencing other business decision makers. Right? So in that case, if you bring in more information, and then I think people in general will appreciate it more because you are looking at things more holistically. Good question, thank you.
Yeah, all right. I feel like we got 2 sessions, right? Unit economics and anomaly detection. So let's give the guys a big round of applause. Thank you very much.
Thanks for watching. Check out more FinOps X 2024 content on our YouTube channel on the 2024 playlist. Support our channel by liking, subscribing, clicking the notification bell, and by leaving comments and questions for our speakers. We appreciate your support.